Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everybody, welcome to week 4 of the fantasy season. There was a good game last night. Got to watch Dallas and the New York Giants, and we're going to have Sutton in to tell us who she wants us to talk about. Okay. Hey everybody, we've got Sutton with us today for P's Picks. Hi Sutton.
Hi.
How are you? You doing good? So today we've got the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants from Thursday Night Football. Did you watch the game?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who should we talk about? Okay, Sutton has made her choice, and we are going to talk about the New York Giants. Can you say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Thank you, Sutton. And there you have it. Sutton decided that we were going to talk about the Giants. From a stat perspective, I think that the Giants were actually a more impressive team in that game.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas, the last couple matchups, the last two, I think one they won like 49 to like 3 or something. Like it was, the last two have been huge blowouts for Dallas. And,
right.
Giants kept it close deep into that game.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think the big reason is Malik Nabers. And actually Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, outside of the last drive or so, was putting up decent. He ended up 29 to 40. So he was, right there at 75%ish in completion percentage, which is great because they always complain that he's a crappy quarterback.
Yep.
And he had 281 yards. He had an interception. I get it. But he was trying to make things happen, etc. At one point, I think he was like 13 of 15 or something like that. Yeah. And just, in my mind, good stats. Yeah. He also rushed it 4 times for 3 yards, which, wasn't the Daniel Jones that we expect. No. But they were moving the ball, passing it.
Yep.
I don't think either of the teams punted more than maybe 2 times. So, it was a decent game from that perspective.
Yeah.
Singletary caught one catch on one target for 14 yards, rushed it 14 for 24 yards. Lousy performance.
Yeah, I think Dallas took it a little personal when, statistically, up until, the game against the Giants in, the last, 10 or 15 years, statistically, had been, the worst rush defense, or had given up the most amount of yardage or whatever it was in, 15 years. So they tightened that up a little bit. Not really that hard to do against the Giants.
Right,
that line isn't that great. And Singletary as a fantasy option is okay because he gets volume, but as you look past fantasy, I don't think he's a very good running back. So, the 14 carries for 24 yards, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, yeah.
I was playing against Singletary this week in the Yahoo League, so I'll take that performance.
And I had to play, I didn't have to play him, but I played him in our Dynasty League, which, we play so many players that a 4 or 5 point performance isn't going to kill me. No. So next up we have Malik Nabers, 12 catches on 15 targets for 115 yards, 1 rush for minus 4 yards. Yeah. He was and the funny thing is, so next we have Wan'Dale Robinson, who was 11 catches on 14 targets for only 71 yards. These guys saw 29 of the 40 targets between the two of them. He was constantly looking for those two, and Nabers seemed to be getting open, even though
Well, there
Diggs was on him.
Yeah, well, there was that first, I think it was that first catch that Neighbors had for like 35 yards, whatever it was.
39 yards, I think.
Just the quick little juke, and the defender had no idea where he was anymore.
Yeah.
And Neighbors was just wide open in that open space on towards the sideline. So, I mean, Neighbors is.
But Diggs was going sideline to sideline with him pretty much on every play.
Yep.
And after one of the catches and runs, I think they actually knocked the ball away, and Diggs was sitting there, and both of them came back smiling. And he patted him, and he's like, I think there's some serious appreciation for what Neighbors can do. And when Neighbors got concussed on, obviously, the last play he was in, which was the last drive of the game, CeeDee Lamb came over and checked to see that he was all right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some,
not.
it's not always the competition. It's the appreciation for a really good player. And I think that Neighbors is going to be one of those really good
already
players.
Borderline superstar. So, if they go, everybody, I think a lot of the projections already for a lot of the mock drafts for the NFL draft is what I've seen. There's a lot of Carson Beck from Georgia going to the Giants. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think they've got to try something, because I think if you
why don't you improve your offensive line?
Well, that too. But
it's always the quarterback's fault, or it's this one's fault, or he's got two great young wide receivers. They got rid of Saquon. They don't have a great offensive line. Over the past 3 years or so, Daniel Jones is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in football. Why not address the offensive line? Get yourself better.
I think
they're doing that.
Yeah, I think they'll do both. They'll try to fix the line and look for, somebody else in that position at quarterback. Because I think if they bring out Daniel Jones for one more season, there's going to be riots in the street. So
there are riots in the street if either team loses, or it's like if the Jets lose, if the Giants lose, everyone's up in arms. If the Knicks lose, if the Yankees lose, if the Mets lose, it's just a horrible environment to play in.
Yeah,
regardless of the sport.
A lot of the Jets and the Giants is that they just continue to make the same stupid decisions as an organizations over and over again. So it's a lot of what are you doing? But I agree, it is pretty hostile. Where if you're not winning, you're get them out of here. It's a lot of that mentality.
Well, and it's not even if you're not winning. I mean, you have to be, if you're going to play in the New York market, your team has to be 17-0. So both the Giants and the Jets need to be 17-0, or they stink.
Yep.
As far as the fans are concerned, it seems. I mean, if you lose a game, if you throw an interception, anything they do wrong, or that we deem as not optimal, is seen as bad. And when Daniel Jones throws for 281 yards and almost 75% completion percentage, I think he's doing well.
Yeah, but no touchdowns.
No touchdowns.
And a pick.
Yeah, it happens. I'm just saying that they were playing against a team that was really ticked off.
Yep.
Upset that they lost last week. They probably decided we're not going to lose no matter what. So they brought their A game on defense for once in a while.
Yep.
Moving on, we've got our picks of the week and the top 6 quarterbacks by CBS Sportsline for a not that PPR matters to a QB, but in a non-PPR league are Kyler, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud, Jackson, and Hurts. And my choice for pick of the week is Joey Burrow playing at Carolina. And I know that yours is
Andy Dalton on the other side of the field.
So it could be a high scoring game.
I think it's. I think the over-under is the highest this week.
Doesn't surprise me because neither defense has been great.
Yep.
And with Dalton playing quarterback now, they actually look like a team that could actually win some games.
Yeah.
As they did last week, blowing a team out. And Burrows is at a point where they need to start winning. And he's starting to work a little bit better with Jamar Chase. Higgins was back.
Yep.
They look a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're, the Bengals for the last couple seasons have been a slow starting team. And a lot of it is what we were talking about, in the last episode was basically these first 4 weeks for a lot of these veteran guys and all the holdouts and stuff.
Right.
It's preseason for them, basically. So they're ramping up. I feel like that's part of the issue with Travis Kelce, why he's been, he's been horrible for fantasy is because, spend a lot of time in the off season shooting commercials. He's got his own podcast and stuff, and he's not in game shape. It's the same with Brandon Ayuk.
Yep.
You come in and you're not in shape. You're not ready to go full speed. So you're in and out, and you're not. What was nice with with the Bengals with T. Higgins being back is they did look to him a couple times in the end zone.
Right.
They immediately were trying to get him back because even though he's not going to be there next season, he with him and Chase on the field helps elevate Burrow because you have that might be one of the better combos of receivers in the league. So. If they can connect on one of those, obviously that helps Burrow. And Carolina's still Carolina. Obviously they did look a lot better with Andy Dalton, but that's only on one side of the ball. So
right.
But yeah, I like it. I think this is about and again the Bengals I really think have to win this game. If they go 0-4 to start the season, that's going to be a pretty deep hole to climb out of. So.
Right.
I can see them coming in kind of like Dallas, a little pissed off and,
yeah.
ready to prove that they can be one of the top teams in the league.
They supposedly were pissed off last week and they didn't play well. I don't
think they were ready for Jaden Daniels to look like a MVP, quarterback in that game.
Right.
So
the other thing, so it kind of confuses me a little bit about Carolina, and do you want the top pick? Do you want to put a quality product on the field? If you want the top pick, I would go back to playing Bryce Young.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless they think that Dalton. How old is Dalton?
Oh God, he's late 30s, 40s,
late 30s,
maybe not
okay,
quite.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was thinking 36ish or something. Are they able to keep him around for a couple of years? And the problem is always that as you continue to lose, you can replace those guys because you're at the top of the draft. But if you bring someone in like Andy Dalton and you play him for the remainder of the season and they win 7 games, you're now at pick 15, 18-ish. So is it counterintuitive to play those guys? And I don't know. Moving on, we've got running backs. We've got Breece Hall, Saquon, Bijan, JT, Jameer, and Devon Achane. And I am going to go with Mason at New England. Yeah. He has been pretty much a stud every week that he's played, save last week somewhat, only because Juwan Jennings was the man that week. And they're going to go back to the run. And I think that New England has not been playing very well.
No, New England has not been playing well at all, especially, their defense, which is, a lot of times, even if their offense sucks, their defense is usually pretty solid. Their defense might not be complete shutdown, but their defense has always been really good at creating turnovers. Right.
Well, and they've always, outside of this year, because this year seems to be either an anomaly or they are getting worse, they seem to always keep it low scoring.
Yeah.
And that's not happening this year, so I think that you're going to see some points by San Francisco.
Yeah.
San Francisco is also pissed off. I mean, they're 1-2.
Yep.
They need to win, or they're going to put themselves in a position where it's going to be more difficult to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And Mason, he's probably going to have 30 touches this game.
Right.
They could just keep handing the ball off to him. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And I heard that CMC is going to resume practice or start practicing now.
Okay.
Or start his rehab training.
Yep.
So not necessarily practicing. I don't think he's allowed to practice until a certain point, but doing some rehab.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So a couple more weeks and hopefully he'll be back. And I think Mason will still be fine to if you aren't the CMC manager, and you have Mason, I think he'll still be
utilized
enough, because they're not going to want to bring CMC and give him 30 touches every week, probably not even 20 touches every week, if their aspiration is to, make it a deep playoff run, potential Super Bowl. So, so my start of the week is Brian Robinson going against Arizona. Arizona, while surprising, a few teams. I mean, they week one almost beat Buffalo, and then, they've looked good. Kyler, obviously, Marvin Harrison, finally, week two had the huge game, and he's looked very good. Yeah, I mean, you would assume so. But for Brian Robinson, Eckler's out this week with the concussion, going against an Arizona defense that does not create a whole lot of pressure. They're not world beaters at all on the defensive side. They're actually, probably statistically in the lower portion of the NFL for defense. So I think Robinson's going to get everything. I think that's why they have Jaden Daniels, ranked so high as the number 2 projected quarterback for CBS. Because Eckler's not out there, might see some more designed runs from Daniels as well, but Robinson's going to get a lot of opportunities this week, which should be a high-scoring game as well, I imagine, because Washington's defense stinks as well. So, you get Kyler and Gene Daniels out there duking it out, trading, going shot for shot.
Right.
Could be
a non-fun
very
week.
Nice. Yeah, very very nice fantasy week for all involved.
Yep. So. Moving on, we've got our wide receivers. We've got Nico Collins. We've got Rashee Rice, DJ Moore, which I don't know why you'd have DJ Moore there. We've got Justin Jefferson. We've got Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jamar Chase. And I am going Deontay Johnson versus Cincinnati. Going with your quarterback, throwing him the ball. He seemed to be the favorite target of Dalton last week.
16 targets or something.
Some obnoxious number.
And Adam Thielen now out for the season.
Yep.
So, looking at Leggett to step up, the rookie, might be able to see, get a little more, see what he's, made of. And then Chuba Hubbard, who had a monster week last week, should have, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with 6, 7, 8 targets this week, out of the backfield. So,
right. They're going to need to do something. I mean, and to keep pace with Cincinnati, it's going to be, like we said, it's going to be an offensive game.
Yeah,
and it may end up being an offensive game.
Yep. And Deontay Johnson, going back to his days as a Steeler, his game was always volume.
Right.
If the volume wasn't there, he had, which is typical of most players. But you also, like Harrison Jr., his big week, week 2 came on 4 catches.
Right.
Deontay Johnson's not that kind of guy. If Deontay Johnson has 4 catches, it's for 26 yards.
Right. He's
got to have all of those targets to compile those. So, and again, since his defense has not looked great at all either, obviously the big touchdown to McLaurin. They almost let up another big touchdown to McLaurin earlier in that game last week. So, if he can get behind, maybe you do see a good, a deep touchdown to Deontay. But I like it. So I'm going Amari Cooper against Vegas. Max Crosby is out this week for Vegas, which, that's good.
Well, for
the opposing offense. And Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson finally connected last week. He had a big week. We know he can do it because he did it last week. What was that, like week? It was in the playoffs or in the championship, or I think it was in the playoffs, fantasy playoffs, when Cooper had like the 200-something yards and 2 touchdowns. Just monster game. And against Vegas, no Devontae Adams this week for Vegas too. I think this Vegas team on both sides is going to come in pretty flat because they're missing their 2 big stars.
Yeah,
so
you just have to hope that they don't get up by so much that they don't throw the ball.
So, that or it's 2 touchdowns to Amari Cooper and then they
early
stop.
on, right, right, and that very well could happen, and it still puts Cooper up near the top of those wide receivers.
Yeah, I even in the, I believe it's in our dynasty league, I took out Gus Edwards because they're playing Kansas City this week, and I put in Deonta Foreman, who is on the Browns, just in case, because he's been getting more involved, and against Vegas, if they get up a lot, he might be the guy he might end up with 15 carries this week.
Very easily could.
Yep.
Moving on, we've got our tight ends. We've got Dallas Goedert, we've got Brock Bowers, we've got Kelsey, we've got Komet, we've got Gesicki, and we've got Ertz. And I am going to go with Kittle at New England.
He's playing, or is he still questionable?
He's still questionable.
Okay.
And however, I see New England trying to cover Juwan Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And Juwan Johnson?
Jennings.
Yep. Juwan Jennings. Too many JJs and Johnsons and Jacksons. So Jennings, I see them covering him more. Mm-hmm. I don't see Ayuk necessarily doing a ton. I see him running a lot, but I also see him throwing it to Kittle and him having a decent game against New England.
Yeah, I can see it too. Like I said, New England's defense
not the same.
Not what it used to be.
Right.
I think they're going to have a tough choice because they got the Gonzalez. They're good corner. They're really good corner. Do you put him on Jennings or do you put him on Ayuk? I think they're going to have to play that game of, obviously after last week it would definitely be Jennings, but so like, well, they did just pay Ayuk. They want Ayuk to be that guy because they paid him a bunch of money, but
until he proves it,
exactly, and
until he proves he's fully back,
yes,
I think you're going to cover the guy that's the hottest.
Yes, so either way, if they try and take out Jennings or Ayuk, obviously that leaves Kittle to do what he does, which is, Kittle might be, in my opinion, running those little seam routes right up the middle. He might be one of the better tight ends I think I've seen ever do that. He's just so quick when he comes off the ball. So
yeah, and unfortunately right now, tight ends are so depressing.
Dallas Goedert's the number 1 fantasy tight end.
Right. And Ertz is 6.
Yeah.
It's a sad tale of what's happening to tight ends this season.
Yep.
So
and like I said, it's sad. My start of the week is Tyler Conklin. Had a really nice game last week. Aaron seemed to look for him.
He did.
Pretty heavily targeted. Denver, obviously Garrett Wilson will be getting the Pat Surtain treatment, who Pat Surtain has held, I think he held George Pickens to like 17 yards or something like that. Pickens had one where Justin Fields just completely missed him. Pickens was wide open, but, so I think Aaron's going to be looking elsewhere. That's why I think Lazard will end up probably having a decent week. Maybe Mike Williams has a big catch or something, but I think Conklin's going to get quite a few targets again this week. Breece Hall, they've got him ranked number 1.
Right.
I think Breece Hall's going to have a monster game this week, but I think
agree.
Conklin's going to definitely benefit from the, the attention paid to Garrett Wilson.
It's
Lazard,
nice.
So.
It's nice that we're seeing some different names.
Mm-hmm.
Laporta's not on here, and I believe he's still questionable, but expected to play.
When I was looking up to see who I might be picking for my starts, I did look at Laporta because he wasn't on the list, and they're like, well, he could be limited. I think they're playing Monday night, so
it's tough to hold on. Hold out hope on that one. I mean, I've got him in one of my leagues, and there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a backup, and I don't have someone I can throw in.
Yeah.
Last minute. So.
Yeah, like in the one dynasty league, I swapped out Ferguson in place of Andrews. This week in the Yahoo league, I actually had picked up Conklin after his game last week, and I'm starting Conklin over Andrews in my Yahoo league. And
no Andrews, no Likely.
Yeah, I mean, and they have a decent matchup. I mean, they're playing the Bills. Actually, I think the Bills and Ravens are Monday night. I think to me that sounds correct. I can't remember, but they actually have a good matchup. I mean, the Bills have been playing really, really good, but I mean, obviously they almost got surprised by Arizona. But then you play, before Tua's injury, a horrible Miami team.
Yep.
I mean, and then they stomped on the Jaguars. So, I think, I like Andrews this week, and I so badly wanted to be like, all right, you get one more week, and if it doesn't work, then you're on the bench. Like, I'm not gonna ever drop him, but he would be at the bottom of my bench until you actually prove it for probably at least 2 weeks.
And Kelsey's entering that same arena of he's hard to trust when he's not putting up any numbers.
Yeah, like I was saying a little bit ago, there was a whole segment on one of the ESPN talk shows or whatever, and the guy was like, can we just say, is it illegal to say that he's out of shape? I mean, you look at him now compared to what he looked like back in like 22, 21.
I think it's his hairdo.
It could be.
And that funky mustache.
Could be. But, I mean, again, and they made a good point. Like Brittany just started watching a new TV show on, I can't remember, Hulu or something. He's in it. Like, he's in a TV show. So he did that. Obviously, going all over the world with, your, probably the most famous person in the world right now. He's got his own podcast. He's got all this stuff and all the commercials,
Yeah.
So it's, his focus isn't as strong on football as it once, used to be. So, but I think he's working his way into it as well, to where he's just, like I said, a lot of these guys that were either hold-ins, holdouts, whatever,
maybe Andy Reid should come over and smash into him and shove him and say, "What are you doing out there?" Like he did last year in the playoffs.
Yeah,
so,
he might.
moving on, we've got our Love 'em, Flip 'em, Leave 'em segment. And I decided that we are going to look at the three big rookie wide receiver names. Malik Nabers, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Rome Odunze.
Is this your order? Is how you view it?
It is how I view it. I think that Nabers, based solely on the number of targets that he's getting, would be my pick, because that he is going to be used no matter what.
Yep.
Now, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's got a ton of talent, but he's not utilized like Malik Nabers is. He also has the highest draft capital out of the three of them.
Yep.
So whether it be in real life in the NFL or in fantasy this past year, so I would say that still on name recognition and how he did in week 2, I'm going to be able to flip him. Rome, he had a decent game last week, but I just don't see that offense being good enough right now to warrant keeping him on my team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm leaving Rome. I mean, obviously, if we're talking dynasty,
then
you hold on to him because he's tied to Caleb Williams. And if the Bears can figure out that line,
do you hang on to him over those other two
in dynasty?
Yeah,
no. Not in Dynasty, but I'm just saying,
Oh, yeah. In Dynasty, you
yes.
definitely consider it more so than this season.
So I'm the first two are flipped for me. So I love Harrison. I think as the season goes on, Kyler's obviously a much better quarterback than
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones. Granted, yes, Malik Nabers had 15 targets.
Right.
But, Daniel Jones, the Giants, teams are going to just, they're going to start just keying on him.
They can't. Because Wandale caught 11.
Yeah.
And had 14 targets.
But if those are your two weapons, I don't think it's that hard to take two players off of there.
I don't know.
Yeah, I personally think just the quality of said targets as well. Granted, he caught 12 out of the 15, so Jones has been playing better. But Kyler, I do like the efficiency that like I said, that they had week 2 where it was 4 catches for the 100 whatever and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
That's nice. But I think if they do get into like very well could be this week with Washington where they got to go shot for shot. Harrison's going to be the guy that he's going, that he's looking for. So I think we'll see the targets start to creep up for Harrison, which I think would put him over Nabers. And obviously I'm not saying I don't, everybody loves watching Malik Nabers right now because he's fun to watch. And I think that's why, those two guys, they're so close, but you can switch the two for whichever one you want, but Nabers, I think you could get the same trade done for Nabers as you could for Harrison, whatever that may be, if you were crazy enough to trade away, one of them, but
I'm not that crazy right now.
Exactly. So unless somebody came at you with,
However, I've got
two starting, a wide receiver 1, a borderline wide receiver 1, and then like a running back 2. Like if somebody came at you with a crazy deal, you'd have to sit there and look at it. But
like I said, I've got DJ Moore, I've got Malik Nabers, and I've got Justin Jefferson, and I've got Darnell Mooney. And the first one who's probably gone as of right now is DJ Moore, but DJ Moore is our CBS's third-ranked receiver this week. So maybe if he starts putting up some numbers, I can get rid of him. Yeah. But I'm not trading Malik Nabers. No. Malik Nabers right now is considered one of the top in the service that I use. He's a top 5 receiver. Yeah. Going forward for the rest of the year. And Odunze is quite a ways down. Yeah. Harrison is about midway between the two of them. So it's what I'm basing it on. And, I really like him.
Yeah. I do too. I trust Kyler more than I do Jones. So that's really what I'm going off of too. So.
Makes sense.
Yep.
That's all we've got for the week. Hopefully you get a chance to watch or listen. And if you've got any questions, whether it be on trades, whether it be your loser of the week, questions on buy low, sell high, any of that stuff, shoot us an email. Otherwise, I am Ozzy.
And I'm Austin.
Have a great week.
Bye.